So picture this, you're in one of your first year lectures on your STEM course and you're in a computer room, which you think is a little odd because you thought you were going to be doing maths or biology, and then they ask you to start coding. Or maybe you're going to find out to love it. I'm going to be talking through my experiences learning to code. The first thing that I would like to complain about is classmates being bad at explaining how to code. There was always someone in the lectures who claims to be coding since they were in nappy, tell you how to code things in a way that's understandable and helpful. And when asking people for help on problems, I found that they were often condescending or unclear or just... I think one of my friends once had someone just point back at the question they were trying to do and say, just read it, left a sour taste. And also, in my experience, they almost always tell you, make a game if you want to code, or code a website in HTML, or they kind of pick projects that they might have done when they had spare time in secondary school, and that stuff that they found cool. But the advice repeated by lots of people is to learn to code, code. But what they always fail to mention is that when coding, they're constantly looking things up. From the simplest commands to larger functions, the main skill in code creation is being able to find the answers by searching. Especially when you're first learning, there are so many different commands, rules, syntax that go into making your code function. Being able to find an example code and understand what's going on is often the first step in solving your coding puzzle. For example, say you want to just do a simple addition calculation, 1000 plus 2000. If you have no prerequisite coding knowledge, you may not be aware of whether you need to call the variables a double or a single. Do you need a semicolon at the end of each line? All of this is coding language dependent as well. So if you're doing it in Python, it's going to be different to C++. If you're doing it in C++, it's going to be different to Haskell. There's so many different coding languages that you need to not necessarily all get to grips with at once, but being able to know slightly some background information about the coding language that you need to use is important, and sometimes overlooked by teaching programs. For me, it often felt like I was expected to know what command lines to use from the very beginning, and seeing others not search for like the command to print, which is normally print by the way, made me feel like I'm the worst coder that's ever existed and I'm just failing at it. So where that kind of keeps going is coding can also be the most frustrating thing in the world. Maybe you've missed a semicolon, maybe it just doesn't want to run anymore, didn't save in the last 30 minutes, now it's crashed, and all your progress is lost. And while when you're kind of a more established coder, those 30 minutes won't be as significant, when you kind of spent a long time trying to get little steps done, it can kind of take you a lot longer than you expect. The biggest step in beginning to enjoy coding for me was actually understanding that it takes time to build the skill, and kind of getting some of my scores back on courseworks and seeing that actually I'm doing okay. It's just in my head that I kind of feel that I'm really bad at coding because it's taken me longer than the others. I'm still producing quality results. If at age 18 you picked up a pencil for the first time in your life, you might not be able to hold it properly or write letters, and if you tried to draw, you might look at that picture and think, I'm a bad artist. But I think the better way to think about it is, that is a bad picture, but I'm learning, the next one will be better. And just like any skill, learning to code takes time, and it's going to be different speeds for everyone. And like art, you may prefer a different medium. You may love Python, hate Haskell, or maybe Java is for you. Coding is a really useful tool and can speed up things like data analysis and different things within the whole of STEM. I really started enjoying coding when I was able to write my own Python code to do simulations and see like a little visualization window. My main takeaway is that if you weren't expecting to code or expecting to learn to code and you're currently finding it really frustrating, stick with it and keep trying your best. So we're going to be talking to my friend who did a computer science degree about their experiences learning to code and a couple of their top tips. So to start us off, what was your first ever coding project and how old were you?
So I don't really know if I remember my first coding project, but I think it was probably something like a basic calculator where the console pops up and it asks you to put in two numbers and then an operation like add, subtract, whatever. I might have been 11 when this happened.
Do you think that computer science and coding is taught well in secondary schools?
Definitely not when I was in secondary school. Now the curriculum's changed a lot, and I'm not qualified to give my opinion on it perhaps. I've not really seen it much. I think perhaps one of the limitations that computer science teaching in schools has is sort of in some ways restricts your creativity. For me, coding is a creative endeavor rather than an intellectual or an academic one. You know, you're playing God with the and I think being sort of assigned a task to do really sort of limits your creativity in playing God. And you'll find this. I was an 11-year-old boy and I made this little Visual Basic pop-up saying "Hello World." I freaked out. I thought it was amazing, and I just wanted to get into it. Of course, when you're a 20-year-old uni student, maybe it doesn't give you that same level of excitement. Maybe you want to see, you want to see a Python simulation of the Merton shoals. Maybe you want to see a Python simulation of the quantum wave superposition collapse. Hello World doesn't excite us anymore. Don't be afraid to Google. Don't be afraid of looking up the simplest things and, start small, work your way up. It really does just take, a bit of time. And the biggest thing is you don't need a degree to code. Anybody has the potential to become an expert coder. It's just, determination and just this perseverance through even when you're getting stuck and frustrated at the simplest of tasks. Just if you're not making progress, take a break. Maybe sometimes I've solved, bugs in my sleep. Just before sleeping I realize, oh, that's what you have to do. And sometimes taking a break is the best thing you can do for making progress.